first thing she felt was the heat rising in her face, sharp and unforgiving, as the restaurant door closed behind her, with a soft chime that sounded far louder than it should have. Snow drifted sideways under the street lamp, melting into the thin fabric of her coat, while laughter spilled through the window she no longer belonged behind. She stood there a moment too long, clutching a paper-wrapped poinsettia meant for a stranger who had already decided she was not worth the evening, her breath shallow, her dignity dissolving in the cold. Across the street, unnoticed by her, a man paused with his hands buried in his pockets, watching as she bent down to set the poinsettia beside a bus stop bench, careful to tuck it out of the wind for someone else to find. It was a small kindness, almost invisible, performed while her chest tightened and her eyes burned, and it was witnessed by the wrong person at the worst possible time. If you believe in kindness and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Loom. Her name was Mara Ellison, and she had imagined this Christmas night differently: warm lights, shared laughter, the possibility of being chosen. But instead, she walked a long way home through Frostwell Square, where shop windows glowed with curated joy that felt like a private language she had never learned. Each step echoed with the quiet accusation that she was behind in life, that something essential had passed her by, and the silence followed her like a second shadow, asking whether hope itself had finally grown tired of her. She did not notice the small hands gripping each other near the bakery door until they stepped forward, their boots too thin for the snow, their identical knit hats pulled low. They were twins, maybe 6 years old, eyes wide with the kind of bravery children summon when they have already decided there is no other choice. Mara slowed, instinctively lowering herself to their height, her heart still sore, her guard still up, as the street noise seemed to hush around them. The girls smelled faintly of cinnamon and wool, and behind them the bakery lights flickered, as if unsure whether to stay on. They looked at her as though she were the answer to a question they had been carrying for a long time, and when one of them finally spoke, the words landed not loudly, but deeply, settling into the quiet space she had been trying to protect. "Will you be our mom?" The sentence hung there, fragile and impossible, while Mara's breath caught and the world tilted slightly off its axis. She did not laugh or scold or step back. Instead, she felt something old and aching crack open inside her, a mixture of fear and longing she had learned to keep contained. She asked where their parents were, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands, and they told her, in halting fragments, about a father who worked nights and a mother who had been gone a long time, about waiting and waiting until the bakery closed and the cold became too sharp to ignore. The man across the street had not moved. He was still watching, misunderstanding the scene, seeing only a woman kneeling with 2 children in a moment that looked, from a distance, like something else entirely. Mara weighed the risk in her chest. She knew how it looked. She knew how quickly kindness could be punished when it was misread. Still, she removed her scarf and wrapped it around both girls, the wool smelling faintly of pine, and led them inside the bakery to warmth and light, her pulse loud in her ears. She bought them hot cocoa with the last of her cash, sat at a small table while they drank, and waited with them, choosing compassion over caution, even as she felt unseen eyes pressing judgment into her back. Tell us in the comments which moment of this story moved you the most. When the door finally opened again, it was not police officers who entered, but a man with snow on his shoulders and panic written across his face. He froze when he saw Mara, his jaw tightening, recognition flashing too late. It was Daniel Reeves, the blind date who had dismissed her with polite excuses and averted eyes, the man who had watched her earlier without understanding. The truth unfolded quickly then, awkward apologies spilling out as he realized she had not been a threat, but a shelter, not a mistake, but a moment of grace his assumptions had almost denied. The twins ran to him, cocoa mustaches and all, and something in Daniel's expression softened, shame and gratitude colliding in his gaze as he looked back at Mara. He thanked her, quietly, sincerely, and for the first time that night, she felt the humiliation loosen its grip, not because she had been validated, but because she had acted in alignment with the person she wanted to be, even when no one was applauding. The weeks that followed were gentle and uncertain, marked by cautious conversations and shared routines. Mara began helping after school, then on weekends, the twins' laughter slowly filling corners of her life that had been empty for years. Daniel watched her with a new humility, understanding now how easily kindness could be overlooked when one is too busy protecting oneself from vulnerability. Nothing was promised, nothing rushed, and yet something undeniable was taking shape in the quiet spaces between them. On Christmas Eve the following year, Mara stood in the same square, the air just as cold, the lights just as bright, but her hands were no longer empty. The twins flanked her, each holding one of her gloves, their steps confident, their trust absolute. Daniel waited a few paces back, giving them space, giving her choice, the night breathing differently around them. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Later, when the twins curled against her on the couch, the world hushed into a peace she had once thought unattainable. Mara understood then that motherhood had not arrived through planning or perfection, but through a moment of risk taken in the cold, through choosing kindness when it would have been easier to turn away. The poinsettia she had left at the bus stop bloomed now on the windowsill, a quiet reminder that sometimes the smallest gestures, performed unseen, are the ones that change everything.